Hey, sports fan. Welcome back. It has been a minute. April was a super busy month for me and my family. We had house guests for 3 weeks out of April, maybe a little bit over 3 weeks, right around there. So I didn't get a lot done in the month. And then my toddler is in some sort of sleep regression, so she's fighting naps and fighting bedtime. It's definitely getting better, but it has been a little bit rough. She's currently napping, so we'll see how long she lets me record. All of that just to say, April was super busy, and that's why I'm not getting to my April wrap up until halfway through May. So here we are. I think it is May 15th, so it's literally halfway through May, and I am just now getting to recording this. I don't know when I'll get to editing and uploading. Like, that's none of my business. That's future me's problem. I only read 4 books in the month of April, so this video probably won't be very long. I just want to briefly go over them and chat a little bit and let you know my thoughts and my feelings about what I read. First up in April, I read Kaikeyi by Vaishnavi Patel. Obviously, this is not the original cover of this book. This is a cover that I started making because my toddler really likes to play with my books, and she usually doesn't damage them. I don't know what happened. I think she was like standing on it and then trying to pull it out from under herself. And so she ended up ripping the cover and the first couple of pages, which I took as great motivation to go ahead and just make a new cover because I haven't done that in a long time, like a little custom. But this is Kaikeyi. I just haven't finished making a new cover for it yet. I rated Kaikeyi a 5 overall. I gave it a 5 on like vibes and storytelling and a 4 on technical skill. I would definitely recommend it to anybody who's looking for a really good standalone fantasy based in existing mythology. And I would definitely see myself rereading this. I enjoyed it so much. I actually made an entire video, kind of a rave review about how much I loved this book. So I'm not going to spend too long on it here. I just really enjoyed it. The characters are amazing to read. They're really interesting. The existing mythology was so interesting to me. It's kind of added a new genre of books to keep an eye out for, and it's definitely made me a lot more interested in like Hindu mythology and legends. I just really enjoyed it. It's written so well. If you enjoy things like the Book of Gothel or Circe or The Witch's Heart, books that are kind of like the life story of a single character and we're just viewing their life and their experiences through their own lens, then you will enjoy this book. I really loved it. Can't recommend it highly enough. Next up, I read I'll Be Waiting by Kelly Armstrong. I gave this a 3 overall. I would give it a 3 or a 3.5, but I don't really give half-star ratings on like vibes and storytelling. And then I gave it a 3 on technical skill because I felt like there was kind of a lot missing from the writing in this book. I would recommend it if you're interested in something that's like a little bit spooky, a lot weird, and kind of more of a mystery than a horror. And I probably won't reread it again. I didn't dislike it. I did enjoy reading this, but I feel like once you finish the story, there's not really anything to come back to. I don't think rereading it would add anything of value, and I didn't enjoy the story enough to want to experience it again and again. I'll Be Waiting is about this woman with cystic fibrosis, and I actually didn't know anything about cystic fibrosis going into this book, so I did learn a little bit here. That's kind of an interesting aspect of the book. Her husband has recently died in a tragic automobile accident. She kind of gets caught up in wanting to contact his ghost. While we're getting the story in the present of her trying to contact her husband's ghost and make peace with his death and kind of move on with her life, we also get a secondary timeline of when she was much younger in high school and she played around with contacting ghosts and looking into the other side, and something traumatic happened. We don't really get it revealed until close to the end, but if you have a couple brain cells to rub together, you'll put it together very quickly and you'll realize a lot of what has happened. It does have a paranormal element, but it also has kind of a mystery element, and across the board, not very scary. It has a little bit of like spooky or eerie and uncomfortable scenes, but nothing really scary. I feel like I need a subgenre of horror that are books that are just like not really scary. They're still a little bit scary, or they have like horror elements, but they're not really that scary. They're not horror. You know what I mean? Because I find that I pick these books up that are in the horror section, they're categorized as horror. That's the genre that they exist in, and then I read them and they are not even a little bit scary. And that's very frustrating when I'm picking up horror because I want to get a little bit spooked out. I want to get a little bit scared. So I need like horror light, to be a genre that we can put these books into so that I know what I'm getting into. That is a whole tangent. I'll Be Waiting was not bad. I didn't think that the writing was impressive. I didn't think it was very scary. I did think that the story was interesting, but not super compelling. And I don't think I would get anything from rereading it. I'll probably unhaul it at the end of the year. Next up, I read The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. I gave this a 2 in like the vibes and the story, and I gave it a 3 in technical skill. I would recommend it to people who legitimately really like Sherlock Holmes, like the Arthur Conan Doyle Sherlock Holmes. I would not reread it, and I won't continue the series. I feel like I'm going to get in a little bit of trouble for this. I just didn't like it. I can't really articulate what I didn't like about it. I just didn't like it. And I don't think that that's a reflection on the quality of the book. I just didn't find myself interested. I found the characters to be very boring, especially the main character. It just felt, I don't know. He was there. He existed, and he existed as an avenue to tell the story. But the story wasn't interesting to me either. The world wasn't very interesting. I don't think it's built very well. I found myself very confused about the world that these people live in and how it came to be the way that it is. These creatures exist, but I don't really understand them. They're described in great detail, but I could not picture them to save my life. I don't know if that's my fault because I was so bored from the jump, or if it's a failure of the writing. The book felt very, very dry. There were parts of the book that seemed like they were trying to evoke an emotion out of me, and it just wasn't happening. I didn't find the characters to be sympathetic. The character I found the most interesting is the actual like detective. I already have forgotten her name. I believe it's Anna something. But we only see her in these brief glimpses where she just seems very chaotic and strange. We don't see her method. We don't understand how she's able to deduce the things that she figures out from what seems like very little information. We don't understand where she came from, or who she really is, or what her augmentation is. And I understand that the author is kind of setting up mystery for a much longer series by not telling us things, but it doesn't feel intriguing. It feels like just a lack of information. I didn't feel like I was being given breadcrumbs that would make me want more of what was happening in this world. I felt like I was just being left adrift in a sea of words. Overall, it's competently written, but I just didn't connect with the writing at all. There were no standout parts that felt really compelling or that felt really bad. So I feel like it's just a very middle of the road book, and it's kind of a huge letdown. Like, I feel bad because everyone seems to absolutely love this book so much, and I see so many people rating it very, very highly and talking about it very highly, and I just felt incredibly let down. I don't really have much else to say other than I felt very let down. I was not very interested, and I didn't think that the mystery was written very well, because to me, mystery should have enough information that the reader can try to figure it out. Even if you don't have enough information to come to a full conclusion, you should be able to try. You should at least have pieces as the reader. I felt like in this book, we were given next to nothing, and then the answers were just spouted out by the detective character, Anna. One other problem that I had with this, I hesitate to even say it because I feel like it's going to be misunderstood and that people are going to take what I'm saying out of context or like intentionally misunderstand what I'm saying. I didn't like the what felt like last minute addition of the main character, whose name I have already forgotten, Din. Did not appreciate the last minute addition of him being, I guess, bisexual. I'm not sure. I don't think it needs a label. There is a scene where he's clearly like physically attracted to a woman. He's being manipulated. He's not attracted to her because he's attracted to her. He's being manipulated by like pheromones and their version of magic. It is actually pertinent to the story. It's important to what's happening and the choices that he makes in that situation. Towards the end of the book, there's another scene where the main character, Din, is making eyes at another male character, and they connect, and they are like getting ready to go have an intimate excursion. It felt so out of place. I actually, when I was reading the book, I was going to praise it for not having any romance, because not every book needs a romantic element. It's fine for books to not include that. Then when it happened in this one, it felt so abrupt and so strange and out of place and shoehorned in that I am convinced that when this book went to a publishing house, that an editor or a publicist came to the author and said, make him gay because LGBTQIA plus is kind of hot right now. And if we can slap this queer label on your book, it will sell better. I don't know if that's really what happened. As I was reading it, I was like, this is what it feels like. It feels like you wrote the book, and when it went to a publisher, they said, we think we can sell this, except you should have the main character have a same-sex love interest. It feels like a manipulation, because I do see this book marketed as an LGBT book, like that there's an LGBT character and that's in some way important to the story. It's really not important to the story, the character, at all. There's one scene where these two men see each other from across the room. Then there's another scene where they actually flirt with each other and they're planning to go bone. So it was entirely pointless. I don't think that it really detracted from the story, but it felt like pandering. That's the word. It felt like pandering, and it didn't add to the story. I don't know if I'm going to include this when I edit this video. It's just how I felt. The last thing I read in April, and this was kind of a out of left field, I picked up The Caretaker by Marcus Cleaver. I gave The Caretaker 4 stars. I gave it a 4 on like vibes and story and a 3 on technical skill. I would definitely recommend it. I think it's a really fun time. I don't think I would reread it because, like with a lot of other books I talk about, I really enjoyed it. I just don't think rereading it is going to bring anything new to the table, and I didn't enjoy it enough to want to relive it over and over. I mean, maybe I would reread it, but I just don't see myself rereading it. However, I did really enjoy it. It's super weird. I would not say that The Caretaker is scary, but it's very like anxiety inducing. It's very tense, and it definitely has you questioning through the entire book what is actually happening. If you like a horror that is weird, makes you question reality, is entirely unexplained, and ends up being pretty bleak, then this is for you. If you are like a happy go lucky, your hero saves the day and everybody rides off into the sunset together kind of person, this is not for you. This is not that type of book. Now, I listened to this on audio and I had about 5 minutes of the book left. So I was starting to plot out like a review and my thoughts. I was a little bit frustrated because towards the very end of the book, like within the last 10 minutes, something happens that really pissed me off. I was very frustrated. I was going to give this book a 3-star and say it was like middle of the road because of that. And then in the last like 4 minutes, something else happens. My jaw dropped. I went, oh no, no, this is a 4-star. This has been elevated to like the perfect horror movie ending. I really, really liked kind of the final things that happened. I thought that it really brought the story together. And while I wouldn't say it gave it meaning, I would say that it really made sense. Everything that is happening and how you feel throughout the whole thing is very well balanced by the ending. What am I trying to say? I would say the build-up and the ending are very compatible. They uh, they go together very well. They pair very well, and that is always a delight when I'm reading horror because I don't want to give anything away, but I find that especially like in horror movies, and I find that horror books are getting a lot more cinematic lately, but I find that in horror movies there's all this buildup, and then the end is like, it just doesn't connect. The ending doesn't really fit. It, for me, takes away from the grand total of the movie to have an ending that just doesn't really fit with the theme of the rest of the film. In this book, the ending really fit the theme that had been established throughout the rest of the book. I appreciated that so much that I gave it an extra star. So that was actually all that I read in April. I didn't actually get to everything that I had on my TBR. I think there was one book I wanted to read that I didn't get to. That is The Scholar in the Last Fairy Door by H.G. Perry. I still want to read The Scholar in the Last Fairy Door. I was planning to read it, but then The Caretaker came out and I just wanted a different vibe and I wanted to experience Marcus Cleaver because I've heard really good things about We Used to Live Here, but I've not read it. So I wanted to read The Caretaker first. I did that. I do still want to read The Scholar in the Last Fairy Door. I don't know when I'll get to it, but I don't want to punish myself for not reading everything on my TBR. That's not the kind of life I'm living. I'll get to it when I get to it. So that is it for April. Thanks for listening to me ramble about books. If you read any of these and you agree, disagree, you have some thoughts, you have some suggestions, let me know down in the little dooley bop down there. And thanks for hanging out.